Dannon, thank you so much for having me to your beautiful studio. We have a lot to talk about, but I want to start at the beginning. When did you realize that you are an artist?
Good question. I still don't know if I'm an artist. I think as a young child, we all play with crayons and colored pencils and watercolors. My parents did a really good job at helping facilitate my imagination. So as a young kid, I did everything I could to explore and create, and I see my development in phases, and that was just kind of an exploratory phase. Around second, third grade, you start playing with clay in class, and while the other kids are making lopsided, rolled up cats and dogs, I'm creating dinosaurs and things out of my imagination that the teachers haven't seen. So they kind of applauded my parents and said, maybe you should, develop this and see where it goes. Middle school, high school, I really got into the groove. I loved art. It was just my thing. It wasn't athletics, it wasn't music, it was art. And so high school really kind of pushed me a little bit further. I took all of the art classes that I could in high school and then took them over again as electives. And so that's where I felt my high school teacher really helped me explore myself. He said, you can do anything you want. You don't even have to follow the class guidelines. Just make artwork and put your whole heart into it. So I went to St. Francis and I got a master's degree in studio art. That's when I really found myself working with wood a lot. Through exploration, someone asked me, could you carve a crane out of this fence post? And I didn't know if I could, but I tried anyway, and I loved it. I fell in love with it. The scent of the cedar, the process of removing the wood and kind of finding that gem within the rough led me to seeking what else is out there. And when I completed my degree, I looked all over the country for a program that would let me grow as a wood artist, and not your typical wood artist, which would be like ornamental bowls and tables and cutting boards. I wanted a fine art program, and I found that in Arizona. So I moved across the country and studied under a master, and that really was where I started being serious about it and putting out work and creating some good pieces.
I want to talk about the logistics of carving your wood sculptures, because I can't imagine that when you walk into this MFA program, they have a class on using the chainsaw,
right?
Or do they? How do you know how to do that?
You don't. You figure it out as you do it. You live and learn. I mean, you try a tool. If it works, then you continue on with that. But I think that's what art is about. I find my best pieces are the ones where I don't overthink it. I just get into it and I find something and I let my imagination guide me, and that's, I think, the key attribute to being an artist for myself is listening to your heart, your head, and that imagination. Anything's possible. So sometimes I don't even know what I'm going to create until I see it within the form. After maybe I've started, you got to rip off bark and cambium and all those layers of wood, and then you find this beautiful grain, and it leads you to another part of the wood, and it's a dimensional process. So you can't just complete a piece, a portion of a piece. You have to work general to specific, and it develops as you continue to go. And sometimes it's okay to change the path that you started. And with wood as a medium, I mean, if it breaks off, it breaks off. It's done. Sometimes you get into a piece that's nice and hard on the outside, but the inside maybe was eaten up by a fungi or a bug or an insect or something like that. And you got to roll with it, and you just go with it. So if I have an idea and I want to make a particular object, I'm out in nature looking for that object inside of a piece of wood. That doesn't happen too often. Usually I'm inspired by a piece of wood, a knotty, burly, maybe a piece of wood that was struck by lightning or was on fire, driftwood, something that's withstood the elements, and those are usually the most beautiful pieces anyway. So sometimes that'll define my form. On the other end of that, if I can't find a piece, then I'll make a piece. That's maybe when I'll get a block of wood and put those together and to create a form that I can't find naturally occurring.
Tell me about the social commentary that sort of runs through really all of your work.
Sure. All of my work is deeply rooted within ecology and the environment and touches on the human connection to the natural world. I feel an innate emotional affiliation with nature, which drives me. Not everyone has that. I think if a viewer can look at my artwork and something comes into their head, a dialogue develops about what it means to be in existence with life, as I put it, which would be plants and minerals and the elements of earth. That's important. We're all involved, whether we acknowledge that or not. We're all part of this growing planet, and to be an advocate for nature is kind of important to me. So that's something that I try to speak on in my works. And I'm not upset if someone looks at a piece and they don't get what it's about. That's okay. It's completely okay. Even if they're just engaged with the process or the quality of the work, that's fine by my standards.
Let's talk a little bit about the process. I know we touched on it, but so much of your woodwork looks like metal.
It does.
And it's fascinating to me. You were saying before we started shooting that you might be a better painter than woodworker because you can make that happen.
Yeah. The goal is not to make it hyper realistic. I'm not trying to trick anyone into thinking that it's metal, but the manipulation of the material engages the viewer just enough to get them thinking about, is this metal? Wait, and the metal represents the mankind and the natural represents the natural world. The process starts with a raw piece of wood that I cut down, and then there's a lot of manipulation, a lot of detail work. I feel like a dentist or a surgeon sometimes when I'm getting in with micro drills and fine sanding, and I make a lot of my own tools to get the smooth effect of metal. And then it's a building of layers of paint. There's no guidebook or rules on how to paint metal or synthetic materials, so that's also something where you live and learn too. And it gets there when someone comes by and says, whoa, wait, is that metal?
Yeah.
Is it? I don't know. So I use a variety of tools. I hand apply paints. I use airbrush. I make my own pigments out of metal as well. And I'd say that the painting pushes the piece a little bit further to actually engage the viewer in the relationship and the balance between mankind and nature.
But I was really interested to hear you say that some of your newest pieces are going to leave some of the natural wood exposed. What led you to that?
Well, I think that's the next level and next stage in my development, to open it up and to have the piece itself speak for itself. I don't feel like I need to put a title on there to tell someone what the work is about. So I feel like leaving some exposed natural wood, the grain of the wood, in juxtaposition to that metal patina that I'm doing, offers a new way for viewers to relate the two, and maybe a little bit easier for some people to kind of connect nature and mankind, because it's all there together in one unit.
Have you always had a mechanical brain? Because I see in your work even like the nuts and bolts, and you told me that they actually function.
Yeah, they thread.
Yeah.
So if you want to make, let's say, a nut and bolt appear to be a nut and bolt out of wood, it has to be pretty spot on. And so, I would actually have a nut and bolt in front of me and use that as my study. See how they function, see how they thread, and then from there try to make that happen out of wood. There's a lot of failures before the success comes out, wood breaking off, finding out there's maybe not the right species of wood to work with. Some woods are harder, some woods are softer, so that's a big learning curve as well. And yeah, I collect a lot of wood, so if it doesn't work for one, I grab another piece and try it again.
You must have more patience than anyone I've met, because I don't know how you can look at a nut and bolt, for example, or the hose. You look at this real life object and translate it, but not just with any material, not with clay, for example, but with wood.
With wood. And patience is the key, and you have to be patient. So I would consider that one of my greatest virtues is patience, but it's a struggle, and the art struggle is real. And some of these pieces have hundreds of hours in them, and so I'm dedicated to making a piece come to life, and if that takes weeks or months to do, then I'm willing to accept that as part of the process. And in the end though, the more time I spend on something and the more of my heart and my mind and my soul I put into it, I feel like it comes out more successful.
When you were a kid and you were drawn to art, it was your thing, did you ever imagine that it would be your career, your livelihood? Is this what you saw for yourself?
No, that's another great challenge that the artists have. I mean, I remember in high school thinking about a career path, and it was like, can I make this? Can it happen? There's so many artists out there. It feels like everything's been done, but I would promote artists to not be discouraged by that, because that's like the mindset you don't want to get into. The more you put into it, the easier it is. I would say that after high school and when I got into college, I really devoted myself to it and I committed. And I would say in the last couple of years, I said, I'm gonna do this. I want to be an artist. I'm happiest and most whole, and my soul is full when I'm making my creations and when I'm expressing my imagination. So for me, it seemed really like the only path to go by. I mean, I'd rather do something and be happy and whole than get by and not really feel alive in this world.
Well, I'm certainly thrilled that this is the path you chose, because your work is just beautiful. So we get to benefit from it.
Yes, hopefully everyone, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for all of the beautiful work you do,
pleasure.
and thanks for sitting down with me today.
It's been a treat. Thank you, Emily.
Arts in Focus on PBS Fort Wayne is funded in part by the Our Foundation and the Community Foundation of Greater Fort Wayne.